really cool. Think a portal, like an intranet for Fedora project developers. And intranet's a dirty word. I know. Garrett doesn't like that word at all. But it primarily is trying to serve two bodies of people: new contributors, in particular non-technical contributors that don't have any sort of experience with using IRC or using mailing lists, and that who look at Fedora as this huge pile of sub-teams and communities, but have no idea where to fit themselves into that. With Fedora Hubs, the gist is that they'll be able to go to this web portal and then be dropped immediately into IRC with a ZNC bouncer on the back end. So they have the history, they can connect with people, they can see what people are doing with a fed message stream that shows the activity of various teams and sub-teams. So very excited about that. So that's all I have from the application services side. So.
I'm going to talk about release engineering infrastructure. By show of hands, who went to Dennis Gilmore's talk earlier about release engineering? Oh, not as much as I'd hope. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail about what we've been up to and where we're going in mass with all the work that's going on. I'm going to touch on a little bit of it, but I'm mostly going to talk about what the motivations for what we're doing, some of the infrastructure pieces that are in place and that are being worked on to enable future work. But before I do that, I kind of want to talk about. Oh, that got chopped off. That's cool. Okay, I kind of want to talk about just Fedora, where we are, where we come from, where we're going, thinking about Fedora as an operating system, and thinking about kind of some of the ideas that keep getting talked about, the modularization, the rings, and things like that. And when you think about operating systems, there's kind of this weird split. And this question on the first line, I'm pretty sure I stole from Alex Larson. But where does the operating system end and the application begin? And we kind of need to answer that question when we move into this world of modularization and when we decide what ends up in kind of an application tier versus in the base operating system. And kind of imagine a world where those things aren't tightly coupled. And examples of those are Docker, Rocket, XDG app, and whatever might come next, like whatever the new hotness ends up being. And I think examples, really good examples of working functions of that are Android and iOS, and Firefox OS is dead now as of yesterday, I think. So bad example. Chrome OS. But the idea is these particular operating systems and their implementation, you have an application space and it runs, and you install your applications in separate lifecycle management from your base operating system. Your base operating system can be updated independently, and there might need to be cache regenerations and optimizations for the runtimes and those kinds of things as updates get applied for the layers on top. But you have these things that are loosely coupled, and they can transition between different versions. I mean, for example, you can take an Android application, you can write it and submit it to the build system, and then people running Android 4.4, 5.1, and 6.0 can all install that application, and they can update in between from 4.4 to 5.1, 5.1 to 6.0, and basically what happens is there's a cache regen or a re-optimization of and if you can even change backend runtimes. They switched from Dalvik to Art and those kinds of things. So this can be done. It has been done, and just kind of thinking about that in the context of Fedora. So that kind of comes to the Fedora rings, and I know the rings idea has been talked about a lot with the Next, but I wanted to what? Oh, well, yeah. Anyways, so this is loosely an idea of where that's going to go. And this diagram's been floating around for a very long time. I stole it from Matthew Miller. Borrowed, repurposed, whatever. Fair use. Okay, so Fedora modularization. So we want to address the use case. And why did that get? I swear this worked at some. It was like it had a better. I don't know, it wasn't falling off the bottom of the page. It's bugging me. My OCD is kind of triggered right now. But anyways, the idea is that if we can decouple these things, we can allow different groups within Fedora to cater to their own desires and their own needs. So folks in the server work group could potentially do something different or on a different lifecycle or different cadence than those in the Fedora workstation. And for people who want to run third-party applications, who don't want to consume content through the Fedora official repositories but want to do it in an external context, we can try to provide them a mechanism that allows that to happen in a more, I guess, sane and contained and controlled environment. and then also cater to the development of those kinds of things. And well, so Ralph mentioned before this concept of namespace distgit that allows for RPMs and Docker containers. Well, that we also want to leverage that same concept for the future, because we don't know what's going to come next. So if we have this concept where RPMs, because we existed in a world where RPMs were the only artifact that we distributed. It was the only thing that we actually produced as an end result. And we would couple them, or we would effectively roll them together in different image formats that would be distributed. But in the future, that's not going to be the case. We're going to have new delivery mechanisms for sets of RPMs. Those sets of RPMs will be packed into containers, whether that be OS tree-based or Docker-based or XCG app, but it's going to become different. So the release engineering needs to cater to that, and we need to find a way to react more rapidly and handle the ability to enable this but still keep sanity, because at the end of the day we have to ship something that is testable and that is reproducible and that can be verified, and we're not going to just like send you out into the Wild West and every time you do an update everything crashes. I'm not going to say that will never happen. Our QA team is amazing, but they're chasing a bullet train constantly, and there's only so much that can be done, but we try. So tooling today. We have Koji, and Koji is RPM centric, and Koji is amazing at what it does, and it was created in a time in which RPMs were the only artifact, and this was before the cloud. This was before live CDs. Like Koji predates a lot of those technologies, and it has actually done a very good job of adapting to that. And Image Factory, show of hands who went to Ian McLeod's Image Factory talk. All right, awesome. It was a great talk. It's a great tool. It's very good. So, Image Factory integration, Live CD Creator, Punji. So Punji is kind of like this weird kind of lie thing, because Punji 3 and Punji 4 share a name, but they share no code. So today we're using Punji, and tomorrow we're going to use Punji, but they're not the same code base that got rewritten. Lorax, Bodhi, Bodhi 1 versus Bodhi 2, and what I like to call the Wild West, which is Coper. And Coper is very, very powerful, and it does a lot of really great things. And I think, at least for me, I use it as kind of like a test dev space for things that I'm trying to get officially into Fedora, while I'm just trying to hash out my spec file. But we want to kind of enhance on that. So tooling tomorrow, and kind of today, some things that are in process, some things have been done, some things are in flight. Koji 2.0, which is still being designed, but one of the concepts around it is content generator centric, and what I think is amazing about that, and for those who've followed recently with content generators that got added into the Koji 1.x line, is it's this ability to have this metadata format defined enabled build type, such that we can have different backends, and it makes the system more pluggable, makes it more flexible. Live Media Creator as opposed to Live CD Creator. Dennis went into a lot of detail about this, but there was just a lot of legacy cruft with the old tooling that produced our live CDs, and we're moving up. Secondary architectures into mainline Koji. That's kind of more of an infrastructure side aspect of release engineering. Instead of having these secondary Kojis that have to live and exist in weird places, it would kind of fall under the umbrella of primary Koji. It's just that if the builds for secondary architectures were to fail, it wouldn't fail the build for the primary architectures. It would just send notification as it normally does. So Punji 4, and this is kind of where I was talking about. So Punji 4 is going to enable us to, for those who may have followed along, Adam Williamson wrote up a really, really great kind of summary of what this is and what it means for us. In the past, composes of Rawhide did not match composes that became test candidates. Well, but you wrote to the mailing list. Yeah, all right. Oh, I'm sorry. So Adam Williamson said that he's actually writing a post, like a blog post about this in detail, and it's currently in draft format, but to look for it on planet.fedora or his website, Happy Assassin. That is going to change, and that's actually going to enable a lot of things, and it makes our daily compose process and our nightly compose and our development process match more of what ends up becoming the finalized Fedora product, the thing that gets shipped out to everybody that allows us to have these things look more one-to-one. Fedora Atomic 2-week releases. This is in production now. We are doing 2-week releases. We've had 6 of them, 6 of them. We want to continue to iterate on this. There's a lot of aspects of this process that we kind of just had to shoehorn in, and we want to clean up and remove a lot of technical debt and enable this. And then trying to, again, enable and find new ways to integrate with the Wild West. And like right now, we already have the ability to just DNF Copr enable things, and that's great. And we want to kind of try to figure out where that's going to fit into the release engineering pipeline in the future, and if we can have a way to allow Coprs to be that loosely coupled build environment, but still have gated tests and those kinds of things on them. A lot of that's floating in the air. So 2-week Atomic releases, and in some of these slides and some of these diagrams, I actually talked about at Flock, and the reason I'm still talking about them is some of them are still being worked on. Other ones had to be rewritten, and I'll kind of discuss that. This one, I will again have to give credit to Matt Miller for putting this together. But it's our 2-week release cycle, and a lot of this is in place now. A lot of it exists, but we need to get better at it. So the build is done, but we want to get better at it. We want to allow for builds to happen more rapidly. Right now they happen nightly. We want them to be more reactive. And Ralph mentioned earlier Product Definition Center. You did not mention it? Okay. Dennis talked about it in the talk the hour before this. So Product Definition Center is a system that will be a place where we store information about composes, and it will allow us to query them and be reactive based on things that happen with them. And I think I have a slide about it in the future in a couple, and if I don't, I have failed you all. But we want to get to a point where the builds happen based on actual changes, so we will know what goes into an atomic image, and when a compose happens, we can trigger tests and things on that, or rebuild components of the system that are necessary based on changes in the environment. So basically we can take the manifest of what goes into an atomic image, and we can query Product Definition Center. We can then say, okay, well, we saw a Fed message come across saying that a new component hit Koji, it got built. So now we need to rebuild these images and rebuild these OS trees so that we have those updates. Test right now, that is AutoCloud, which I'll talk about in a second. The test component was bootstrapped basically from zero. It was kind of invented off to the side in the sake of time. It was one of those things where we wanted to get this thing out and have it rolling forward. A decent amount of that backend is going to be reworked. We're going to work with the Fedora QA team to standardize on Taskatron and get this in so that it's part of the full product pipeline, and we're complying with the test case, and that we're not reinventing wheels as we continue forward. The release piece of this right now is a Python script, and you can go look at it. It's really bad. Don't think ill of me when you look at it. If you do, one thing that we're doing in this space that's an effort that's already started is we're creating a library. It's called Fedora Lib Releng, FLR. And that is set up to allow all the different components that are kind of reusable, all the processes and things in Fedora release engineering, to put them into a library such that all of the scripts in the release engineering repository should eventually just be slim wrappers around this set of functions, and we're passing inputs into them to get the outputs that we want. And just to kind of take that one further, as we need to in the future, the back end of those API points should be able to be disparate systems or fire off some Ansible task out into the infrastructure and allow it to be more distributed and more parallel. So as we go on, we're continuing to iterate to make that release piece better. But right now, when the Atomic 2-week release goes out, we upload the images to the mirror. The website is updated, which I have something on in a little bit.